We've got a protocol that sits over every other blockchain, and that allows us to verify transactions between them. What Squid does is we're connecting multiple blockchains together, and you can swap Ethereum on Ethereum to XRP on XRPL, and we're doing that with RLUSD. And RLUSD is currently on Ethereum and XRP Ledger, but they'll hopefully be going to more chains, and Squid will be the way that you can move USD around. It's good for just onboarding a lot of liquidity onto the XRP ledger, and you need to be able to iterate quickly over time and improve and respond to the market. And the way that that happens is by having ownership of something. Like Ripple holds lots of XRP, and that's why they're improving the XRP ledger. And these pockets of incentives is why everyone's sort of innovating in their own way, and that's how we pushed everyone forwards. But yeah, it's been a privilege being in the sort of multi-chain position that I'm in. I can see the forefront of each ecosystem as they move forwards and bring those over to what we're doing in each other ecosystem. Yeah.
Hey and welcome again to the Krippenreiter TV show, our weekly series on Monday, hosted by me, Krippenreiter, and my regular co-host Vet. Super happy to welcome Fig, co-founder of Squid, to the show today. Squid Router, for those who don't know, is the backend solution that powers the interoperability needed to make the XRP Ledger multi-chain connected. So multi-chain connected to Solana, Ethereum, and all the other EVM and non-EVM chains. It connects liquidity across many networks, like the XRPL EVM sidechain, and finds the fastest and most efficient way to move value from one chain to another. He's also currently working on a solution that we will demo today that will make it possible to easily on- and off-ramp RLUSD directly from your wallet using Squid. Super happy to have you both on the show today, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, doing really well. Thanks so much for having me, Krippenreiter, and good to see you too, Vet.
Yeah, doing great. Very, very excited for this one. It's been a while since we catched up and a lot happened. Definitely also on Squid side, but also just in the industry. So happy to catch up with Fig.
Nice, awesome. Before we go into all the deep topics that we have prepared today about Squid and the XRP Ledger and XRP, maybe just a little introduction about you, Fig. You went from the medical school to teaching yourself how to code, and you are a musician, or you were a musician, you were performing music, and then you ended up with us, all crazy people on the blockchain space. How did that happen, and why?
I just was seeking more and more craziness and ended up here. I mean, I studied medicine. I really loved that, but I found it was, it's so interesting learning about how the body works. It's actually really similar to finance, I think, because both of them are really complex systems and you can't really solve them. You can kind of like nudge them in directions, but there's just so many different parts, and a healthy person can mean different things to different people.
True.
Anyway, but the problem with medicine, I thought, was it's not creative enough. I tried to do some startups and entrepreneurial things in medical school, and the regulations, rightly so, are very strict. You don't want your doctor to try something new on you, and you end up just building accounting software, I think, a lot of the time. So I was left and just taught myself to code, started doing projects in the background, but yeah, played some music, lived in New York. Actually worked in TradFi as well, worked in TradFi for 9 months, and that was enough of a taste for me to be like, I really want to make this better or fix this system, because I saw so much like greed and gatekeeping, this kind of stuff, and I was like, we can automate a lot of this and we can make it better. So I got really excited by crypto. Joined about 2020, so 6 years ago now, and it's been going for most of that 5 years. So
yeah, that's a lot. I mean, you worked as an analyst, right? This was your TradFi experience.
Yeah. And looking at medical investments, actually. Yeah.
So another interesting thing, you said 2020. We know 2020 was a DeFi summer, right? Like, was this where you basically jumped in? Was this summer 2020, or did you hear about it? How was that experience joining?
Yeah, that's when I jumped in. Yeah, summer 2020. A bit before even, but sort of ramped up. And I mean, it was just bonkers, right? I don't know if you guys would have been there as well, but it was like playing this massively multiplayer online get computer game with real money, and you could cash out real money. It was just very fun though, and trying to solve all these problems. But I mean, over the years, I've seen DeFi. I've got my views on DeFi have changed a lot, and I'm sort of less I am more respectful of TradFi and some of the rules they have. So I'm more of like I'm looking for a blend of what TradFi's gotten right and what we can make better using crypto.
By the way, this transition of yours is, in my opinion, the most interesting. Like this way you described between DeFi 1.0 and 2.0 is, I think, is like the most fascinating because it's just makes sense. And it's just interesting that a lot of people are still sort of in this 2020 DeFi summer, while the industry clearly demands something different. So just as a side note.
Yeah. I know we'll get into that at some point maybe, but yeah, it's been a privilege being in the sort of multi-chain position that I'm in. I can see how I can sort of see the forefront of each ecosystem as they move forwards, and bring those over to what we're doing in each other ecosystem. Yeah.
Because you said musician, what music instrument did you play? Or
man, I play everything. I play sax is my main instrument, but I play bass, guitar, drums, piano, like clarinet.
Wow.
But I love recording. So we made a lot of sort of electronic music and recording a lot of different instruments, sampling bits and pieces. So yeah, that's me.
It's super technical as well, and there's structure and notes and melody. So there is also the combination, right? You have to combine many instruments to make music. You have to combine many blockchains to. So there's this.
That was a good strategy.
But one weird thing is, I think music with AI, for example, became more interesting over time, but DeFi became a little bit more boring because now everything is based on stable coins. Stable coins are like really in the middle of everything. It's not really meme coin trading anymore. I mean, meme coins have their own space, but everything builds around stable coins right now. And I think one of the biggest ones right now, besides USD Tether and USDC, we now also have RLUSD. And with RLUSD, you are working on something very interesting, right? You are doing the on and off ramping for us people to basically get in and out of XRPL using RLUSD if we want, right?
Yeah.
Do you have something prepared?
Yes, I've got a demo which I can show you guys.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Just share my screen now, but a quick intro to it is essentially what Squid does is we're connecting multiple blockchains together, and you can swap Ethereum on Ethereum to XRP on XRPL. And we're doing that with RLUSD. And RLUSD is currently on Ethereum and XRP Ledger, but they'll hopefully be going to more chains, and Squid will be the way that you can move RLUSD around. It's good for just onboarding a lot of liquidity onto the XRP Ledger. So this is a demo. This isn't released yet, but it's just a sneak peek of something that's going to come. So we've got here, I've logged in with my Ethereum wallet. So imagine I'm an Ethereum user. I've just heard about there's this yield product, maybe Doppler on XRP Ledger, which I need to get RLUSD on XRPL to buy into that. Or maybe I'm an institution and I'm holding a lot of USDC on base.
Yeah.
So Squid supports over 100 chains now, like a gazillion of them.
Wow.
And I'm going to go to base, select USDC. I've got 4 USDC. I'll put in a quote. I've already selected here. That's XRP Ledger, RLUSD. And let's see if it works. See if the demo gods are on our side. So I'm not sure if you guys can see my wallet, but it's just popped up, and I'm going to sign it now. And that was it. So it just it's now paid, and let's see if it completes quickly. It'd be nice if it's super fast today, but there we go.
So I've seen you guys have sort of an Explorer, right? Can you say an Explorer? Is that?
Yeah, scan we call it. Yeah. But Explorer, yeah.
Is that sort of aggregating a bunch of other Explorers, like from other chains, and to one place? Okay.
Yeah, we thought about this. No, the way we do it is we've got our Explorer, and then from here we link out to see this is the base Explorer.
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
So wherever it's relevant, you can sort of click into it. But we try to give you all the information you need just to track the Squid transaction. I think it's rounded down to 0 here. It's actually, you can see how small the fee
Yeah.
Was that's just gas on XRP Ledger.
So this was basically from base USDC to XRP RLUSD, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, you can swap from any token. I'm really excited about this. Before, we didn't support stablecoins in XRP, XRP Ledger, and it was also much slower. I think you can see this one was 11 seconds. It can be done as low as 1-2 seconds.
Interesting. Where did these efficiencies come from?
Yeah, so basically what's happening under the hood is, so we've got a protocol that sits over every other blockchain, and that allows us to verify on our ASP. The protocol verifies transactions between them. And the trick of making it fast, the problem with that is that Ethereum is quite slow. It takes 12 seconds just for a block, and it takes about 20 minutes to be final. With Bitcoin, it's even slower. It takes about an hour to be final.
Yeah.
And that's not useful for payments, right? If an institution wants to make a payment, or if I even want to do something, I don't want to sit there waiting for an hour for it to finish. So we've built into the protocol the ability for a market maker to essentially take some risk on behalf of the user, and they can fill the order instantly. And then if something goes wrong, like if Ethereum's block, it's called a reorg, where the transaction is lost within that 16-minute period, and the market maker loses their money instead of the user. So it's really good user experience because the user gets it instantly, and there's no added risk for them. And then from the market maker's point of view, they are taking a tiny fee to take on that risk, and then it's their job to rebalance their sort of inventory.
But because the chance is so low, right, they still do it. Because if you would say the risk is very high, they wouldn't do it. But because the risk is there, but it's very low, that's why they are still doing it.
Yeah, it's extremely rare, actually. It's very rare, and actually our market makers don't really take a fee based on that. Theoretically, they can, but in reality, what happens is for very large transactions where there's a lot at stake, they will wait a little bit longer. So maybe they don't wait 20 minutes, but they wait 5 minutes. That's if it's getting 200K, 300K. But
because it's probably also very competitive, because there's so many market makers who would do it. So if you take a fee, nobody would just opt in with you.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice in that that's a good thing about crypto, where you create these open markets and then prices get really down, really good, because there's competition.
Which is good for the user. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But we are not talking about the automated market makers, right? We are talking about people algorithmically trading using market maker bots.
Yeah. These are 30, 40 person team engineering shops, really sophisticated guys. It's not really possible to do. It's possible, but it wouldn't be a good service, probably if it was automated.
Shout out to Wintermute.
Yeah, that's over on Squid. But, we're not doing that.
Connected there. Yeah, I was wondering with Squid as well. We just saw with RLUSD how you get on XRPL with RLUSD to then invest in any kind of protocol that you want to earn yield, for example. Maybe even go cross-chain wherever you want. But maybe more directly for XRP, what would this mean for XRP to now be connected to every kind of service protocol and chain that exists?
I think this is an amazing moment for XRPL, for the combination of the good stablecoin, which I think RLUSD is the best stablecoin on the market. It's the most highly regulated, it's the safest. And then it's got the full force of Ripple behind it, making partnerships, getting adoption, getting good yield products, getting institutions using it. That, alongside with the access that we provide, means I think we should see a lot more TVL. We should see more adoption. Say Ripple wants to go and work with a fintech who maybe they're a neobank, they're trying to build something like Robinhood or Revolut. And Ripple's saying, we want you to use RLUSD for all your US dollar accounts. Until now, they would have had to go through, it would be difficult for that kind of fintech to onboard users into their ecosystem. Whereas now with Squid, we're building a very nice UX for essentially depositing into any of these wallets. So a wallet can partner with RLUSD, use RLUSD under the hood, but then now they can onboard users from Solana, Ethereum, Base, Bitcoin, wherever. And all of that liquidity is coming over to the XRP Ledger. And yeah, I think it's a really important part of Ripple's stack. Also internally, a lot of their products, they just bought G Treasury, they've got the Prime business. All of those are trying to use RLUSD, and those will also pull from other chains. Like Hyperliquid has perps happening. You want movement to and from Hyperliquid. All this stuff. It's just, it's really important to have the connectivity, and
because I was like hearing like this moment when Solana was on the rise up, and Ethereum as sort of the household name in DeFi. That once these bridges and interoperability solutions were established, that actually first enabled even capital from Ethereum to go to Solana, because there wasn't before. So the same thing would apply also for the XRP Ledger, where if you have interesting things, it actually allows capital to flow in from other chains.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we love the most, like these locked ecosystems, siloed ecosystems, opening them up to the rest of the industry. Really powerful.
I think it also enables the free market to do what it's doing best. Like instead of forcing anything, you can free the market up and let people decide what they want to do, where they want to do it, with which kind of stable coin, and basically the best solution will win. And if RLUSD on XRPL is the best solution, it will naturally win as long as it's connected to the broader ecosystem, which it now is with Squid, which is amazing.
Thanks. Yeah.
I would even add like things for DeFi protocols or DeFi products. If they are better DeFi products elsewhere, right, then of course people should bridge then there or move their value over there to use it to do arbitrage essentially. If you just lock it, you just have basically artificial barriers, and if you open them up, it's just a natural cause.
You have interest that isn't really there. It's just there because it's locked. So you can't really say my product is successful. It's only successful because all people that are using it are locked there.
You didn't give them the opportunity.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it goes both ways.
And I don't think anyone's really trying to get out of the XRPL.
Yeah.
So it's not a risk that we're going to release TVL from XRPL.
Yeah.
But either way, I think having an easy way to withdraw is also, it increases trust. So it's actually like making it easier to withdraw can improve your deposits over time as well. So really a win-win, I think.
Just also a question from your side, like you are integrating basically all chains. Let's just say it that you have basically integrated everybody and make it so seamless. What are your learnings specifically with liquidity routing, payment routing over so many chains that sort of came about more recently maybe for you, that you think is sort of a really important lesson that you learned where you didn't, like before it wasn't very clear, and now it becomes very clear having like so many chains, so many liquidity providers, market makers and so on? Is there anything? Definitely.
It gets so complex with over 100 chains, and our tech stack is it's actually really nicely built now to absorb all of that complexity, but it was very difficult. It took us years to work out the best way to just have not all this, like we call it spaghetti code, where you have things like going in all directions. And one thing that comes with all these different variabilities on different blockchains and dexes and things is reliability goes down. And we've been looking at the data across our competitors and actually our previous protocol that we had, and the failure rates were really high. Like they're at least 1 in 100, but usually a lot more. And
sorry, when you say failure rate, what do you mean? Like basically,
I mean, when you initiate a transaction, it'll get refunded.
Okay,
that's what I mean. Sorry. So, say the thing I just did, I would have just got my money back, and I would have to try again, and it'd probably work that time. But 1 in 100 is just not good enough for anything serious in finance.
Okay.
Anything in payments, we were talking with big payments company, and every morning at 8 a.m. when the US wire system opens, they just get 100,000 transactions, and it just land at the same time. And you imagine if we have a 1 in 100 failure rate, then that's 1,000 transactions that fail. and we have to go to user support, or you just have to handle redoing them or something. So we've really been focusing the last sort of 4 or 5 months on just getting reliability into the 99.9 sort of range, and trying to just get it to 100 if we can. This new protocol we've built, I won't go into the technical details, but it's extremely well set up so that you can push forwards, rather than in blockchain. Often when something fails, it'll refund backwards. And if something gets stuck in our system, we can keep pushing it forwards and like complete the transaction. So I'm really excited by that. We've built it again at this sort of network layer so that it works on every chain. And we'll be doing probably some more marketing around this, but it's been useful trying to sell to these. I'm in New York right now, like selling to financial institutions, payments companies, because they sort of require that before they can move forwards with anything DeFi.
Would you say that, if you described it, we have so many networks now, you with Squid sort of as the overarching protocol and connecting with all of them, you have sort of the plumbing. If we see like originally from TradFi to crypto, people said, we're going to do it now better than TradFi. It feels like we sort of replicated a lot with TradFi, like this segmentation, siloing. And so we kind of, it's now the same, but with crypto basically, isn't it?
Yeah. I think there's 2 big reasons why that happens. It's totally the same. I mean, and there's gatekeeping as well, because that's what happens with silos. Like people try to hold on to their customers. And that's the first reason, which is incentives. Because at the end of the day, technology is so fast moving and evolving. It's very difficult. It's impossible to build something perfect. And you need to be able to iterate quickly over time and improve and respond to the market. And the way that happens is by having ownership of something. Like Ripple holds lots of XRP, and that's why they're improving their XRP Ledger. People in Ethereum hold a lot of ETH, and these pockets of incentives is why everyone's sort of innovating in their own way, and that's how we pushed everyone forwards. But it creates fragmentation. So that's part of why we built Squid in this way, because we thought that the incentives, the way that just the world works, there's going to be more and more fragmentation over time, and that is necessary to improve things. And at our layer, we're incentivized to connect them even better.
Yeah. Do you see specifically with liquidity? Because I feel like you guys have the best view on sort of that landscape. Is that more fragmented now in crypto than before, or do you see consolidation trends?
It's more fragmented when I started, because when I started, it was really just Ethereum. That was easy. That was very easy. But man, it's fragmented. In fact, what's really happening with liquidity, I think, is not just fragmenting between chains, but it's all moving off chain. It's almost like it's
But you are doing the same, right? Most of what you're doing right now is off chain, and just the settlement, like the basic stuff that has to be on chain, is on chain, right?
We're trying to get to that, because it's so much more efficient to do liquidity off chain. Not having to deal with MEV or failed transactions or slowness. Like everything in finance is really fast. And also off-chain liquidity means the market makers filling on Squid can get prices off Binance perhaps, or Coinbase, or Ripple Prime even. And that liquidity is much deeper, and like the prices are much better than if you were getting it on Uniswap, or even I'm not sure how the XRPL DEX compares with cost, but everything is moving off chain. I think also in a response to this fragmentation, because there's one place where all the liquidity can go, and that's away from all these blockchains. It's central. It's pretty ironic after all these years. Yeah.
But then you have to connect them all, right? Like on XRPL, we have pathfinding, where you can go from one asset to another through hops, and you end up where you wanted to go. And you are doing basically the same, but in a more sophisticated, broader way for many chains, right? And you are using intents for this, right? Maybe for people who don't know intents, what are intents? It's pretty technical, I think, but the general purpose or idea behind intents is pretty easy to understand, right?
Yeah,
what
definitely.
Is it about?
The word comes from like intent or intention, where my intention is to do something. Maybe I want to bridge RLUSD based to XRPL. And the idea is that you sign a transaction which literally just describes that intent. It says, I have RLUSD on base, and I want it on XRPL at this address. and then you sign that, it goes on chain, and then our protocol will read that intent and then as the market maker fills the order, they see the intent as well, and they're like, oh, this guy needs RLUSD on XRPL. They send RLUSD to me, and then our protocol will verify that the intent matches the action that was completed, and it's just a different programming model. Instead, with smart contracts, maybe you program this like very complicated like finance thing on chain, and it just follows that, if this, then that, and it just runs the code. But with intents, it's extremely simple. All you're posting on chain is the intention, RLUSD from here to here, and then there's no logic on chain that executes. And we can talk about, I know we're talking about the smart contracts later,
right?
But it's extremely gas efficient because you're not running any code on chain anymore. You're basically just doing this one, is it valid or not? And it's very cheap.
You basically deal like the blockchain as sort of a marketplace for, I want to do this. Is there someone who wants to match me, right? And then someone's yes, and then you just basically solidify this in block, and then you do this off chain, which is so much more efficient than.
Yeah. It's so efficient, but it keeps what I think is the important part of crypto, which is the exit hatch, the ability to like self custody. Because at the end of that transaction, I don't have my money locked in the bank at the end. I've got it in my wallet on the XRP Ledger. So we've given away a lot of the decentralized part of how the code is running, but custody is still very much decentralized and self-custodial. So that's what I like about it. It's sort of got the best of both worlds. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think it's not really a huge compromise to think about that. You have like the logic is sort of off-chain because people need to meet each other anyway, I would say. And then you do the settlement basically on-chain, where like with smart contracts, even the negotiation is like all on-chain, right?
The verification is still there. You have the important part of blockchain is still working.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's interesting because you feel like with experiences and your own doings, because we had like these debates specifically with smart contracts as well. And, there's, good friends like Saul, he was like always saying, hey, just settlement layer, like he could like in his case, he couldn't like give like on the ground experiences because he's not having like a project like you do, but sort of that intention of, or that intuitive thinking, keep the blockchain really for custody and settlement. That's it. And do you see this actually where it's going? Like, do you think this is sort of where every blockchain excels then, if we just keep it that way?
Yeah, very much so. I really think that's where it's going. I think there's even we've seen, so Tempo is the chain that Stripe just launched. I don't know if you've heard about this, but Stripe is a big payments company in the US, all over the world. They run all the payments in Shopify. And they just launched a chain, and their chain, they've got a protocol which essentially allows you to do micropayments. And you'd think crypto would be perfect for micropayments because it's very cheap, it's fast.
Right.
And if you send 100 wires per second, they would arrive in 3 days. Crypto's good for it, but even with that, and Stripe's chain extremely cheap, extremely fast, they've still built an intent like mechanism for micropayments where you just lock up $5 and then off chain you agree with them like a gazillion transactions over the next 10 minutes, and then you just post we did 1 million transactions and it cost $4, and then you just do one transaction on chain. Same thing.
Payment channels, essentially.
Payment channels, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
sounds
we
like
have one XRP Ledger. Yeah, because the idea is sort of that we call them claims on the XRPL, where you basically have you lock funds, as you say, in a payment channel, and then you can around the consensus, not on chain, do basically send the claims back and forth, which is just like encryption and decryption of basically intents or messages. And you can scale it up to a lot of transactions because you don't need to go through consensus. Only when you just actually settle, when you say, okay, we want to settle the balances, and then you go through consensus.
Already got it. Too early. Just as usual.
Shout out to the architects of the XRPL.
Yeah.
So would you say that the XRPL going forward right now with smart extensions and smart contracts, is this something you would say is wrong? Are we misled to believe that we should follow the smart contract route? Should we abandon it altogether?
Oh, this is a good one.
I don't know. I don't know. I think programmability is really useful for both of these things, settlement and custody. Custody, you can potentially build enough programmability just into the token model, into the tokens to handle that without needing to do generalized. But settlement is harder. It depends. Yeah, it depends a bit. If you want to go faster and have a big ecosystem of projects building on you on your chain, then it's better to have generalized programmability. As long as the problem is you can't really police them to build just these like very minimal type programs, and so you can end up with very inefficient program which takes up the chain space. Yeah,
this is where like the thing is, are we opening a door to something where on Ethereum they have full smart contract capabilities, and everybody's asking for higher gas limits, right? They want higher gas limits for bigger smart contracts. I mean, Vitalik is pushing like for even bigger because he wants to have like this walkaway test, I guess he says, whereas like people completely hands off, they can disappear, and this whole thing still executes. What are your thoughts on sort of that direction? Because in my opinion, like you talked about settlement. I feel like maybe there is sort of this trade-off. If you do very good in generalized smart contracts and heavy smart contracts, maybe you're not so great then in settlement. Like how, you know what I mean? Like what is sort of, because the chain is affected by just having like these huge things on chain.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I know what you mean.
What are you thinking? Yeah,
I think that what we've seen is that the most successful apps on the generalized chains like Ethereum and Solana have been the minimal settlement, minimal on-chain logic anyway. So even if XRPL opens the gates, probably the most successful apps will just be the really well-made, like efficient off-chain focused apps. So it's probably not too much of a risk. For example, Polymarket on Polygon. Polygon is
very good example.
Yeah,
a really slow, bad chain. Like it's the worst, probably the most unreliable chain of all. And Polymarket is like one of the most successful high throughput apps of all time, but it's just off chain basically. So it's the same thing. I think the risk is probably quite low, just for that reason. Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I understand it's scary, but I think
you're right.
The community will worry too much. Yeah.
But you have also Aave and Uniswap, for example, which are more on chain, which would be the counter argument to say we need smart contracts on chain to build something like Uniswap is doing and Aave is doing.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Uniswap we already kind of have with the XRPL DEX. It's not exactly the same, but even Uniswap is replacing. Yeah, Uniswap's going off chain as well. Like the way Uniswap works now, a lot of their stuff is using intents. So you'll say, I want to swap this to this. I don't care how it happens, and then a market maker will come in and just give you the money. That's how Uniswap, most of on-chain trading happens in the other ecosystems.
Wow. So basically say like the big builders on Ethereum, DeFi, they all realize that, hey, this is the direction, and they try to incorporate intents because it's more efficient and just seems to be better, right?
Yeah, exactly. Aave hasn't. Aave is the one outlier so far. And I think that's interesting. But that's the kind of thing that would either be good to have via programmability or that we would get built into the chain. Just, Aave is it's been stable for years now. It actually isn't being innovated on much. So, well, it is, there's a lot of things they're doing, but the base protocol is pretty good and stable. So we could just do that and you don't need too much else. Yeah.
Interesting, because I feel like if you like in a world where you have maybe blockchains who are more optimized for business logic, even though a lot of it is going off chain anyway, maybe the actual key value is to be really good at settlement, because that's what all of them want to do on chain. Like settlement, they all want to do on chain. While business logic seems to be moving more and more off chain, it seems.
Yeah.
Even though Vitalik is pushing for more, but if there's no appetite, people just still gonna do it off chain, right?
Yeah. Vitalik's vision is still quite specific and fairly invalidated in terms of the real world, I think. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, programmability would definitely make settlement easier, like building different types of intent mechanisms on the XRPL. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe a middle ground. Like I think the smart extension may be the middle ground that we need without the fully fledged. But then obviously, if we don't go with XLS 101, we still have the issue with enacting features on layer 1 all the time, which has a huge drawback. And the funny thing is, congratulations, Vic, you're on the XRPL DUNL right now, so you can actually push forward your intents and your view on the future of XRPL to make it the way it should be in your point of view.
So excited. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congrats for that, by the way. And there's a connected question actually to this. How do you, like with now also having really stake in the XRP Ledger, sort of from a governance point of view as well, is what would you love to see from the XRP Ledger? Where do you would love to see it double down on, if you could choose or give input, basically?
Of course, yeah. I think I was exploring the lending protocol. It's what XLS 65 and I can't remember
66, 65 and 66.
The single asset vault and lending protocol.
Yeah. And they're a really good start. I think it'd be interesting to have the ability to have rolling loans at some point. So the thing with XLS 66 is that it's a fixed term loan, I think, from my understanding.
Yes,
it is.
And for user experience, we could actually use intents to solve this by essentially having a market maker give you a rolling loan, but under the hood, they're kind of managing multiple fixed terms positions. You could potentially do that, but ideally we have just built into the protocol a rolling sort of lending model so that you can put your RLUSD in, you can get interest on it, and then you can pull it out whenever you want. And that's just a really good user experience because people don't want to wait until Sunday at 12 p.m. to withdraw money. Yeah.
When you say rolling, you mean basically to close a loan and open one again?
Yeah, at any point in time, exactly.
Okay.
That fixed term. I think that'd be really useful. And then the other thing on the UNL, I still need to dive into it more, but the scaling and just understanding the reliability as transaction volumes go up. I think we're starting to hit that. Like I've been seeing on the timeline that, so I'd love to understand that more.
With AI, right? AI is pushing the limits pretty much right now.
Yeah, right now what we're seeing, because the XRP ledgers, like we don't have smart contracts, thus all of these functionalities are very well documented. And because it's very well documented, you know exactly what the blockchain is doing, it's very easily queryable by AI. So when you say Claude, hey, do this, it knows exactly what a payment is, so it just doesn't have to guess, or how the DEX works, because it's not 5 different smart contracts that it needs to evaluate. So because it's so easy accessible, we see a lot of people vibe coding, a lot of tools, apps, bots, dabbling around on the main chain, thus spiking really like considerably everybody's public infrastructure for querying transactions, like requests, but also actual transactions. People are pushing on the ledger, and the base level is definitely higher. Like you can see now, you can really like map out when Cloud Code was like trending, started to trend on X really much, and then you can map really like the transactions. It fits almost perfectly. Like mid February, and then it went from there.
It's amazing stuff. Have you guys been vibe coding as well?
Yeah, I am personally only for analytics. to get like good insights of sort of what's going on, some outliers. I was checking the auto bridging of XRP, like some of the functionalities, because it makes it so easy to check. So from analytics point of view, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
What about you?
Yeah, same. I've made some stuff. It's really good for data, like you say, like scraping data, and then like just you would usually need a data scientist to work on it or get a report. Now you can just sort of ask for it. And our team's been using it so much. We thought we'd had to hire like 5-6 engineers this year, and we're just not going to need to probably.
It's amazing.
Yeah, everyone's just pumping out so much work.
Yeah, maybe to wrap this all up, I would ask one last question, which is about the absolute, let's say, dream case endgame scenario of yours. What would you say is the best case scenario for Squid and XRP in, let's say, 10 to 20 years or something? Like, what is the end game for you? What would you say is the best experience for the future?
Yeah, I mean, 20 years is
just casually throwing out 20 years.
20 is crazy.
just 20 years.
Yeah, vision. I mean,
the vision.
Obviously, I'd love finance to be running and settling on chain. Global finance, I think I'd love to see, firstly, the US system use crypto a lot more. I think Ripple's doing a great job there with all their acquisitions recently. And then, like I said, we're working with Tempo and Stripe on payments, and Visa's coming on chain. All these things are happening. But it would be amazing to see that create a kind of unification of the globe. Like I think crypto is really good at crossing borders that countries and governments like create. And it'd be really lovely for the global trade to be more efficient because of everything coming onto this one system. And I think that'd just be good for everything, good for cooperation between people, good for innovation, good for just prosperity in general. And then Squid's place in that XRP's place in that, it's pretty central really, that the way they're already bringing a lot of finance on chain, I think they'll be one of the big players. It's almost undoubtedly going to be that way. And XRP is also very global. So they've got outposts in the big centers of the world, Singapore, London, in Latin America, New York, obviously, San Francisco. And I think XRP can be that sort of unification layer. Squid's position in that is there are going to be other chains that are successful, I think, because of that incentive reason that I mentioned at the start, and just being those highways, the connective tissue that just allows everything to flow freely, making sure that all the things that Ripple is building and on XRPL are available to everyone else, and vice versa. And if we can just it's like sort of the internet, but for value, for money. Yeah.
You could actually be the browser that David is always talking about. The browser moment, the thing in the backend that does all the heavy work, completely abstracted for the user. So everything just works across chains, but all the complexity is just hidden via Squid. This could be what you will.
We're working on. We did a sneak peek actually in the last 24 hours, but we're definitely working on a sort of abstracted way of accessing the world of blockchain, because we think we're right there. The liquidity is done. It's just the wallets need to catch up and feel just more like a Web2 bank or something like this. And I think this year we're going to see a lot of really beautiful crypto apps.
How far away would you say are we? Like, if this is like the end game, how far away will we be in the end in comparison to the original Cypherpunk ethos? Is this like the complete opposite, or are we just mimicking it just a little bit differently, or how far away are we from the original view?
Now we are the feds.
Now we're the feds. Yeah. That's always the goal, right? That's how power works. But I think in reality, like the people with power are going to hold on to a lot of their power, and it's going to be an iteration. So we won't get the full Wild West that is the Cypherpunk vision. And I'm almost happy about that. I think seeing over these last 5 years I've been in crypto, like all the scams, all the rugs, all of the, like a lot of meme coins as well. Like it's just, it's not that positive. I kind of want a safe, stable asset like the US dollar to do business in. So it's not all bad, but hopefully we don't give up too much along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit better is already like the huge improvement that we need. We don't need the full suite of Wild West. It's just a little bit better than before. It's probably already like self-custody, for example. If we're able to use self-custody in the future and don't rely on centralized custody and so much, I think this would already like be a big improvement in our life. So
yeah,
hopefully,
totally agree.
And let's not forget, we will always have like these neutral tokens on public blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, which have no counterparty. No one can control them. So if you hold them in self-custody, that's sort of, I guess, the closest thing to Cypherpunk. So you have, basically money that's only based on social consensus.
Yeah, and we still have that. I hope that doesn't go away. But you're totally right. The exit hatch is the important thing. Like if one day someone takes too much power and we can like exit out of that some way, that's enough of the cypherpunk dream for me. Yeah,
I agree.
Nice. With this, thank you, Fake. Thank you, Vet, for the show today, and thank you for your view, like for showing what the future could look like if we keep the promise and the basic idea, settlement, for example. Let's keep the important part on chain, right?
If there's just one thing to say for everybody who stayed till the end is definitely check out Squid and 100% check out what we talked about, Intense, right? It's a very fascinating field that is up and coming and that's really pushing for a lot of people who really like more of the technical side. And if you want to experience Intense, I guess Squid is the best way.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. Really good conversation. And yeah, the demo that I made, it's not live yet, but you'll be able to try it out hopefully in a week or two. So
in a week, nice. Yeah. Awesome. Make sure to follow us. Make sure to like and subscribe to the show and to the channel. And see you next time, guys. Ciao, ciao.